Good evening, all.
Yep.
Welcome. Been a little while, but we're back again. Racing, as you know, Thursday evening. Looking ahead to Saturday's action. I'm Matt Pyman Hill. Got Adam Smido-Smith with me, and I'm glad to say that Adam is very confident on a few selections. Well, I think he's got plenty of opinions to share at least. Yeah. So should be a lively one. We're here till about 9 o'clock. Or just after. If you're in the chat, thanks for joining us. We do want to hear what you're backing this weekend as well, so do get your thoughts in the chat box for Saturday's racing, or Friday for that matter. If you've got something tomorrow, always nice to keep an eye out on
some good races Friday, Pyman.
On the viewer opinions, it is, yeah. So, do let us know what you're saying in the chat box. I'll try and dip in and out as we go, but if I haven't mentioned it, you've either posted something too inappropriate or I'm going to get to it. So just bear with me. And you'll have to bear with me in terms of my voice as well. I'm still recovering after a trip to Wembley in midweek. So if you're thinking I'm sounding a little bit croaky, don't worry, I'm not ill. Just a little bit. I can't do it like I once did, put it that way. But first things first, I think we better recap on last week. We'll keep it brief because it's fair to say it didn't go that well. After a fantastic few weeks for the channel, we reverted to type a little bit. 8 points staked. 2.3 points return, so a 5.7 loss. Just to add insult to injury, Hurricane Lane, which I think you put up for the Derby. Not for the Irish Derby. Went and won the Irish Derby as well. So, previous selection that hit the bar. Went on to oblige, but these things happen. So I've got to move it on. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. We'll get ahead to this week because we've got a good Saturday of racing, largely from Sandown, but also from Haydock. Plenty to get stuck into. We'll start with the best quality race. The Coral Eclipse Group 1 at Sandown. There is a weather warning I think we need to touch on because I believe it's been quite nice up north, but not so nice down here for a change.
Yeah, it's there's some quite significant rain and thunderstorms forecast. Between now 8:30 on the Thursday and 3:35 on Saturday, the conditions could change significantly. But to be fair to the main three protagonists in the race, they should all be handling it, Pyman, to be honest. So unfortunately, the Coral Eclipse Group 1 over 10 furlongs. We've only got the 4 runners, which is a little bit disappointing.
I'm going to ask you about that because I remember when I used to sit next to you at an unnamed betting company. You would often whinge about national hunt races having, 2-3 runner races for the big races and what a disgrace it was and stuff. So what's the excuse here? I know it's always a pretty small field, but 4 runners is pretty poor, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I really defend it, Pyman. It is usually one of the smaller Group 1s. The 10-year average is 7.3 this year at 4, which is obviously significantly below that, but it's quickly becoming apparent that in these big Group 1 races, if Aidan O'Brien doesn't have multiple runners, there's not much underneath the surface. John Gosden, by his standard, is having a quiet year with the juveniles, I would say. He has got the favourite for this week, for this race. But yeah, it's just a state of play at the moment. I don't very often moan about UK prize money. It is what it is. We've got a very different funding mechanism to a lot of other places in the world that people compare us to. But yeah, it's poor. It's not great. It's poor, but it is still pretty interesting, Pyman. We have officially, this was just before Royal Ascot. The July official ratings aren't out yet, but we have officially got the joint 3rd and the joint 4th best horses in the world in this race. So yes, there might be 4 runners, but 3 of them are pretty damn good. And there's an outsider who isn't that bad either that's won at Chester earlier this season as well. So it's still interesting because the Eclipse traditionally, and again this year, is one of the first times in the season that a top-notch 3-year-old meets the top-notch 4-year-olds and older horses. So there's plenty of question marks about the 4 horses, and that's what we'll try and get into, Pyman, if you want to do a quick run through the market.
Yeah, I do want to do a quick run through the market, and it will be a quick run through because, as we said, just the 4 runners, but not a lot to separate the front 2 in the betting. Mishriff is a general 6-4 chance, while St Mark's Basilica is in there 7-4 at a place, but generally it's kind of 6-4 the pair, isn't it? Really, you've got Adair in there 7-2 best price, 3-1 general. So again, not a lot to separate, and then El Drama, as you say, quite a rank outsider at 25-1. look, not a lot between the top two in the betting. Is it a 2-horse race, first of all, I suppose? And which way would you lean, if so?
Well, the first answer, Pyman, is no, it is not a 2-horse race. Adabe is a Group 1 Ascot Champion Stakes winner at the back end of last year on soft. He's won Group 1s down under. He's a very, very good performer. And he is the horse, actually, that is the joint 4th best rated in the world at the moment, Mishriff being the joint 3rd best. And St Mark's Basilica's there in the middle. Mishriff hasn't been seen since the end of March, where he was pretty impressive at Maydanny. That was in one of the proper Group 1s on World Cup night. And he beat a couple of good horses there, really good horses. Chrono Genesis, a Japanese horse that we actually mentioned on our ARC preview, won a Group 1, a proper Grade 1 in Japan last weekend. So Mishriff has shown himself as a versatile globetrotter. He's won 5 of his last 6. He only bombed out at Ascot at the back end of last season, the race in which Adabe won, and Mishriff was favourite for that one as well. Those wins recently have come on a variety of grounds, a variety of surfaces, including turf and distances, anything from 10 furlongs, 9 furlongs, 12 furlongs, and this one's back to 10. I think the form of his last Group 1 win, which was in Maydanny, the Shima Classic, is very strong. The 2 horses that were 2nd and 3rd that day have both won proper Group 1s in the Far East since on their very next start, Chrono Genesis being one of them that I've mentioned. So at the prices currently, Palmer, like you say, it's 6-4 the pair. I would very much like to be with Mishriff. But one thing to mention is the weight for age allowance, which comes into play now at this time of year as
quite
the
significantly
3-year-olds
as well.
They take on their older rivals. So Hump in the chat will probably mention this as well. St Mark's Basilica's got an official rating of 120, and Mishriff has got an official rating of 122. Yet Mishriff, being an older horse, carries £10 more than St Mark's Basilica at this time of the year due to the weight for age scale. Just on St Mark's Basilica, you can get that 7-4 at the moment, Pyman, best price. He's the 3-year-old taking on the older horses for the first time, as we've mentioned. His CV reads really, really well on the face of it, Pyman. He's a Group 1 winner on each of his last 3 starts. The Dewhurst Stakes, then he's gone over to France. He's won the he's won the French 2,000 guineas, and then he's won what they call the French Derby, but it's not a Derby because it's only over 10 furlongs. But the big question mark really is his 2 wins. His most recent 2 wins have come in France, Pyman. And the French racing at the moment, I've alluded to this before, at the moment and for the last 2 or 3 years simply is not to the standard of the UK equivalents, and the Irish ones for that matter as well. So I think French racing generally is struggling. There will be some outliers and there will be maybe one star a year, but there really isn't anything stand out at the moment. We alluded to that on our ARC video where they've not really got a standout contender at the moment, and it's dominated by English and Irish horses. So I mean, just as a bit of a flag, really, there's been 4 so-called classics in France this year, and Aidan O'Brien won 3 of them. And in the one that he didn't win, he had the 2nd. So Aidan O'Brien is typically sending one runner over to these French classics, and he's mopping them up. It's not in a good state at the moment, to be honest. But St Mark's Basilica visually has been pretty impressive. In the French 2,000 guineas, he basically won on the bridle and never looked like getting beat. Poetic Flare was in that race. Ran a bit flat, but backed it up since. But other than Poetic Flare, beat very little. There were some better animals ran in the so-called French Derby at the start of June, and St Mark's Basilica beat them easily as well. So it's been visually impressive both times and never really looked like losing particularly in the Prix de Jockey Club, i.e. the French Derby. He was really visually impressive there. But this is going to be by far the biggest test of his career, and he's got to back it up. He does carry £10 less than Mishriff, but he has got to back it up. And at the prices, it's 6-4 the pair, pretty much. I'd much rather be with Mishriff at the moment than St Mark's. Certainly, Adabe deserves a mention. If it does rain as forecast, he'll be right within his element. This horse will never run again with firm in the description, according to his trainer. Well, there's no prospect of there being firm in the description this week, but it's just how much rain they get, because this horse, Adabe, has proven himself. He's a 7-year-old now, but he's proven himself time and again to be really, really quite top notch when there is give underfoot. And El Drama, we've mentioned, simply isn't good enough for this one, to be honest. Did run in the French Derby last time, finished 15th of 19, beaten 23 lengths, so he's got a hell of a lot to do.
A little bit of conversation in the chat about the pace angle. Who do you think will go forward out of the field?
Yeah, not a clue to be honest. I think Mishriff could do. I think Mishriff could do.
A shout from Centre Circle podcast thinks that Zini might take them along on a day.
Well, that scene is not riding a day. That scene is riding El Drama. So El Drama possibly.
Fancy to Dave to win Centre Circle podcast. Yeah.
There's no team angle to this one. So normally we would see a couple of entries from O'Brien sometimes in these Group 1s. There isn't this year. So with the field being so small, it is quite difficult to say who's going to go forward. I think Mishriff would be comfortable in doing either or, to be honest. It's really nice to see David Egan. He's only 22 years old, but he has ridden this horse on his last 2 wins. And it's good to see them sticking with him. He is retained by the owners. They could have easily done what other owners have done this year, i.e. John Leaper, and gone for Frankie Dettori and jibbed off the retained rider.
Well, I would say it's more common for them to get jibbed off than to be kept on in these kind of events.
Yeah, so it is really nice to see David Egan still on there, and has rode him to his last 2 wins that were one of which was a proper Group 1. So good to see that. But yeah, I would if I had to have a bet, and I will be. I'll be back in Mishriff at 6-4. And it's fast. I mean, I like Mox.
Is that an official selection?
Yeah, yes, it is. Yeah, I like St. Mark's Basilica as a horse. I liked him in the Dewhurst, as you know, Pine. Months ago when we was talking about the Guineas, I like him. But I just think this is a massive, massive step up. And if he can win St. Mark's, he will mark himself down as a really, really good horse. And fair play to him if he does.
There you go, then. Mishriff for Adam, 6-4 generally at the moment. That could change quite a lot. I mean, do you think there's a possibility that they could drift if money comes for a day, if the rain comes? Could it get any bigger than 6-4, do you think?
Yeah, possibly. With the field being so small, any significant movement on one horse should mean that all 3 other horses drift in price. So that could sure happen. And like I say, if there is a deluge, I think Ade will definitely get backed.
Yeah. Okay, moving it on then. Do let us know what your thoughts are on the Eclipse, by the way. But going to move it on to the Coral Charge over 5 furlongs. That's the opening race on ITV this Saturday, and we've got some familiar names on the show here. Do you want to tell us where the money's going? Then I can give us a quick market check if you want.
Yeah, well, I've got a strong opinion on this horse, Pieman, but it's been against one rather than being for one. And I've had a few opinions like that recently, whereby the likes of High Definition been dead against it. He finished basically last, and the one I picked was midfield, unfortunately. So I'm the ones that I say can't win is going the right way, but I'm just struggling to get the ones that will be beaten correct. But Ari Sibo is the 100-30 favourite currently. He was flattered in his last race at Ascot in a Group 1, the King's Stand. There was a mad pace on that day. The pace burn up was ridiculous. Batash, we've all seen that race. The pace was just a massive burn up, and everything from the back, has finished well and gone past beating horses late on. Harry Sibo was one of them. That's a career best on figures, but he had everything in his favour there, Pine Man. He won't have everything in his favour here, and I think I'm really keen to take him on. I think Harry Sibo could be one of the most falsely inflated official ratings in the UK, this horse. He's now rated 113, which is a long way a career high mark. He's a 6-year-old now. Before Ascot, Harry Sibo had 27 starts in the UK. And on 24 of those starts were in handicaps. So 24 of his 27 starts were in handicaps. And over that whole time, this is before Ascot, over that whole time he was rated no higher than 102. So I'm not having that all of a sudden a 6-year-old can improve 11 pounds. That Ascot race, as I say, just fell into his lap. Draw a line through that. If you take that Ascot performance away, his performance before that at Newmarket was pretty good, don't get me wrong. But that was in a handicap. He's won a soft ground handicap. And then he's gone on to finish second in a Group 1 at Ascot. Like I say, I just think everything fell apart and it all fell his way. I think he's been flattered by that. And I think he's got a false rating now, to be quite honest with you. Unfortunately, I'm not really massively strong on anything against it. There was a horse called...
Can I just say, Brendan has come in the chat and he said he thinks you've got to be with Came From The Dark.
Possibly.
Let me just run you through the market while we've done that, because you've ruled out the favourite 100-30. You're dead against Arecibo, so... Where else are we going to go then? Came From The Dark. He's a general 4-1 chance. Lazuli is 5. Keep Busy is 6. Atalis Bay is 9. And then it's sort of 14's bar from there. Stone of Destiny, Ainsdale, etc. And then you're getting into sort of name your price territory. So go on. Came From The Dark first.
Came From The Dark's not been seen since early May, and I'm not sure why, because he'd reeled off a couple of quite nice performances before then. He was second behind Lazuli. And he's not been seen since then, which which is a question mark. He probably should have won that day against Lazuli at Newmarket. I think he was hampered. He had a tough run through that day under Holly Doyle. Quite late on, came from the dock. So he's interesting, but like I say, he's had 63 days off the track. The similar comments can be applied to Lazuli. Carries a £3 penalty because he won a Group 3 last time, and this is a Group 3 this time. So he carries a £3 more than everyone else. But he's not been seen since the 1st of May, which was Guinea's Day, and it's quite a while back. So I'm surprised Lazuli didn't run at Ascot. He's 5-1, but could still he's a good horse. Lazuli is a horse going places. So I wouldn't argue with anyone that's backing Lazuli, even with the penalty. Atalis Bay is a 3-year-old, gets the weight allowances. He's 2 wins and a second already this year. He's got a nice profile. I thought he won pretty well over course and distance last time. That was in a 3-year-old only race. But, Pieman, what do I normally say about 3-year-olds in open age sprints?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, normally be against them, I would think, due to a lack of experience.
Yeah, well, forget everything I've said about that, Pieman, because we're back in Atalis Bay in this, I think. Forget that.
Okay, yeah.
I just quite like him. Like I say, he's a 3-year-old. He's going to have to step up, but he gets the weight allowances. The weight allowances are there for a reason, but I think this is a decent horse. He beat some good horses this year, and he's been just behind some other good horses in the race that he didn't win at York.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at Sandown last time, that was a listed race. So he's just stepping up to Group 3 now against the older horses, but I thought he won with a bit more in hand that day than the official margin suggests. The official margin was 3/4 of a length. I thought it was pretty easy. He was in the front. It was at the front for a long way. He clearly likes the track. I think he's pretty versatile ground wise. He's won on good to soft before. He wouldn't want a deluge, Pieman, but he's at 9-1 each way, 3 places. I think he's the play in this because I'm really keen to take on the favourite.
Yeah, well, there you go. Decent each way value. You're getting about, you take that 9-1 at 5th, you get a 9-5 for a top 3 finish. So I mean, it's I can see the logic definitely, especially if you're against a favourite. I think you've got to take an each way stance in a race like that, haven't you? And you've got the places. So good luck to you there, Atalis Bay. We'll move that one on. Do let us know if you fancy anything in the chat, and I'll pop back to that. But we'll move over to the Coral Challenge, which is run over a mile. Handicap action, plenty of runners. Would think this would be right up your street. And will it be an each way selection?
Yeah, it will be each way, Pieman. There's a couple in here that I fancy, to be honest. Montapham, I think I backed Montapham, and he won this race last year, but has only got 1 run to his name this year, to be honest, which is a worry because, that was back in March on Doncaster, on the opening day of the season at Doncaster, or on Lincoln Day. Last summer, he ran 4 times in 7 weeks. So the fact that he's not been seen for 98 days would have to be a worry. Plus, he's £9 higher off 109 than when winning this last year. Yes, he's got the claimer on there. Adam Farragut claims £5, but to be honest, he's not been pulling up any sticks. Some like I say, these people who just assume that because they've got a claimer on that they're carrying £5 less. The apprentices claim carry less weight for a reason, because they ain't as good as their older counterparts, which is fair enough. Some of them clearly are, but it's just on a case-by-case basis. I wouldn't use it as a blanket rule. So, yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm worried about Montapham having not been seen for so long, and, I'm just worried about his mark generally. He's favourite. Acquitted's 15-2. He's frustrating to follow, Pieman, to be honest, because he keeps running well without actually winning, and he's edging up the handicap. He's off a career high mark here of 96. We've seen him before at Doncaster, for example. He's shied away from winning a couple of times as well, so he's pretty unreliable. But we'll go in at least once this year, but I'm just hoping it won't be this weekend. The one I like is Magical Morning, and I think of the value available at the moment, I think the 8-1 available on Magical Morning right now, with Paddy Power for 5 places, I think that's a stonking each way value. For example, the other ones that are paying 5 places in the market, Sky Bet are only 11-2, Hills are only 6, Paddy Power at 8.
It's a big disparity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just plain wrong. I think that's plain wrong, to be honest. He's an unexposed 4-year-old, which people like me get attracted to in these kind of markets. He's only had 1 start this year, Pieman. That was in the Royal Hunt Cup, right? He clearly wasn't fit for me. Clearly was not fit. That was just a couple of weeks ago. He was pretty much leading at the Furlong pole in the Hunt Cup, almost last off the bridle. And he just emptied really, really badly. He finished 8th in the end. But yeah, he's a selection. I wouldn't want deluge. I wouldn't want a deluge of rain for him. But yeah, I just think the 8-1 5 places is pretty mad. And there's another one I'll give a shout out to as well, Pieman. that I think's also the wrong price, and he really is quite unreliable. But it's Maydanny. It's 20-1 Maydanny. We've covered this horse before.
Yeah, we have.
It's terribly inconsistent, right? But there's no way that this horse can go off 20-1 in the 5 places market. For example, is 14-1 elsewhere in the 5 places market, and one of the lads who's got him up at 3 places each way is 12-1. I cannot see this horse going off 20-1. I think it's a silly price. So it's going to be a doubles and trebles first on the Racing Pine Man. It's going to be half a point each way at 20-1. First time I've done it, but it's just to have him covered. He is unreliable, but I think that 20-1's too big. Nothing lower must be that 20-1, 5 places. Nothing lower is acceptable. His first run of the season, Pine Man, was in a race we covered on Guineas Day. More than decent second behind Bell Rock. Ran quite well, and those two, Maydanny and Bell Rock, went clear of the rest that day. There's some decent horses in behind there as well. Bell Rock's a good horse to finish second too. He was pretty much a no-show at Ascot, but he's got that in his locker anyway. I mean, his profile suggests that he runs well one time and then he's in a shocker the next time. That was the 30-runner Hunt Cup, and that is the only time this horse has ever gone off bigger than 13-2 in his life. So I just think the 20-1's playing wrong. He's been punted a few times in his career. So when he is fancied to go well, I vividly remember at Goodwood last year, he was a double figure price in the morning, went off 5-6-1-ish and wazzed in. So, if the money comes, take note on Maydanny. But yeah, half a point each way on Maydanny 20-1.
Yeah, don't mind it, covering the bases, half a point each way. Brendan Smith asks, who is Aj Fargo? That's the jockey on He's Irish lad, isn't he, I think?
I don't know. I can't remember. I can't really remember coming across him this season, to be honest.
I think you said about him not pulling up any trees is about right. Brendan also mentions Beat Le Bon with a few laughing emojis after it. Have you got anything to say on that one?
I think Brendan backs that horse every time. I always used to think that he prefers Goodwood. Wait for Goodwood, Brendan. But he ran an okay race in the Hunt Cup. It was on the other side. He ran okay.
Do you know what? One firm have got Beat Le Bon priced up 9s, and then without extra places. Whereas the extra place boys have got 16s. Quite a lot of disparity in this market, like an unusual amount of disparity, I would say.
That's why now is the time to play.
Definitely.
Maydanny and Magical Morning, I think, are both the wrong price. 8s and 20. I don't think they'll go off that, but the pair of them.
There you go. That's quite a strong opinion then. I'll ask you about the Distaff listed race over a mile, but it's for fillies. You got any thoughts on this one?
Not the most exciting race of the weekend for me, Pine Man. There is 11 runners, so you're going to get some each way value, I reckon. And I'm taking somewhat of a punt on Ready to Venture. It's got plenty to do on official ratings, plenty. She's only rated 93. The favourite's rated 106, and they're going off the same weight. So it's got plenty to do, but I think Ready to Venture clearly did not stay when she was favourite for a good listed race at Goodwood. That was over 10 furlongs. She's back to 8 furlongs here. If you put a line through that Goodwood run, like I say, that was too far. Her last run before that at Ascot was okay. She was behind Creative Flair that day, only 1 1/4 lengths. It wasn't brilliant, but I thought that was okay. And a replication of that Ascot form. With a little bit, she's going to need some improvement, don't get me wrong. But if she can build on that Ascot form with a bit of improvement, I can see her amongst the places. She's 15-2, 4 places each way with a couple of suppliers. So I think Ready to Venture for the places. But Statement's a horse I'm not really sure about. I mean, ran well beyond her price behind Alcohol Free in one of the in the Newbury trial, the Fred Darling. Then went into the 1,000 guineas at Newmarket, finished 8th, pretty much nowhere. Then didn't win at Epsom when she was favourite. So 9-4 about Statement's pretty short, but it's got Ryan Moore on, and she's clear on official ratings. But I'm hoping that Haggis can get a bit of improvement out of Ready to Venture. But what I would say is that Ready to Venture in the same colours and same ownership and same trainer is Auntie Bridie as well. Auntie Bridie of a similar price as well. Tom Marquand, who rides regularly for Haggis, is on Ready to Venture, and that Adam Farragher is on the Auntie Bridie, and cannot claim in this listed race. So we might find out how good Adam Farragher is.
Well, I was going to say, it does seem
he's not claiming. Yeah,
it does seem like he's being questioned on this evening's video. Maybe he's going to shut us up. Maybe he's going to deliver a statement.
Yeah. Well, he might have to beat a statement as well. But yeah, not particularly strong on that race, Pine Man. But I would go for Ready to Venture each way is the official selection.
All right then, ready to venture for Smido in that one, and we're going to move it over now. Going to move it over to Haydock, but just before there is a race we're going to touch on, because I think you've got a selection in the Lancashire Oaks. But I just want to say, for anyone that is in the chat, bit of a quieter one tonight. Brendan's having a bit of a conversation with himself, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it, Brendan. So good to have you in. But we'll just say, Smido, you haven't had time to go on the Old Newton Cup, have you? So we will touch on it afterwards. But there's no official selection there. If you have a strong opinion on the Old Newton Cup, get it in the chat now, and we can discuss that afterwards. But first, going to go to the Lancashire Oaks Group 2. So it's a quality race. There's plenty in here that we've spoken about in previous weeks. So I'm guessing you have a fancy.
Yeah, I see absolutely no reason at all why Lune is 11-1 here. I just don't understand it. Again, another race where there's some disparity. She's as short as 8-1 elsewhere. I just don't get it, Pieman, because Lune has had 2 starts this year. She's won a listed race at Nottingham on good to firm. And then followed up at Haydock over the same course and distance, and won a Group 3 at Haydock on good to soft. So she's shown versatility. She's going up the ranks, listed to Group 3, won both. Now she's in a Group 2. If that progression continues, there's no reason why she can't go close in this one. I just think, like I say, 11-1. I just think it's too big. I mean, is she kind of from a unsexy yard, Henry Candy, David Probert? Yeah, I just like I say, and I think that her last start, I think she won, pretty well. I mean, if the official Racing Post comments, led going easily over 2 out, shaken up, pushed out final 110 yards comfortably. She's won a Group 3 comfortably over course and distance. She shouldn't be 11-1 to win a Group 2 over the same course and distance. I don't get it. I think that's a really, really nice price, 11-1 each way. 3 places. There is 4 places available, but it's a lot shorter price. So on this occasion, I would go for the 3 places. Alpinista sets the standard clearly, and she's priced accordingly. She's 9-4. She's rated 113. She's carrying she's off level weights with the likes of Lune. She carries the same weight, but is officially £9 better horse. She might win. But
what about Mystery Angel? That's an interesting runner.
Yeah, it is an interesting runner, Pieman, for the reason that Mystery Angel was 50-1 and finished second in the Epsom Oaks behind Snowfall. Snowfall won that behind. It was a long distance second. It was 16 lengths second. But this is kind of the first time that the Oaks form is going to be tested somewhat. Like I say, it's not an out and out test, given that Snowfall's finished at least 16 lengths in front of all of her 13 rivals.
Running a different race to the rest of them.
Yeah, but Mystery Angel, interesting contender. Certainly an interesting contender. And this is another race where 3-year-olds meet the 4 and older horses. Mystery Angel is one of the 3-year-olds. Dubai Fountain has been backed the last 2 times. One of them was the Epsom Oaks, backed into 4-1 second favourite. And then one of them was the Ribblesdale, backed into 9-2 second favourite at Ascot, and has bombed out in both. So I'm happy to take her on, to be honest. And I just think Lune is a absolute standout bet in this race. Whether she's an unfashionable, like I say, trainer, jockey, sire, but she's a filly in form. She's had 9 starts. She didn't pull up any trees before this year, really. She didn't win any race at all last year or the year before. But she's in form. She's won 2 out of 2 this year. She's coming up in grade again. I see no reason why Lune can't run well again at Haydock this weekend.
Quite a convincing case then for Lune at a double figure price of 11-1. We are going to run through the selections. Not really had any offers from the chat on the Old Newton Cup, so I think we're going to have to reluctantly lead that one. I mean, Mark Prescott got the Fav handicap debut, bottom weight. It kind of, tells you where we're at with that race, doesn't it, really?
Well, Mark Johnston's won 3 of the last 8 of this. I normally attend this one myself with SD. Shout out to SD, actually, Pieman. As we've not got much in the chat tonight, I'll tell you a bit of a story about SD, especially while he's not here. Member at Haydock, has been for years. He actually represents the members on the board at Haydock, so he thinks he's really important at Haydock. And so SD lives his life around the racing calendar, Pieman, as you well know. And he gave his missus an instruction to book an holiday to Cornwall for last week. So a week ago today, they would have been there last week and come back last weekend. It was all booked up for that week when she went to book it. So automatically, she just booked it for this week, not knowing that this week, SD is, as a result of that decision to have the holiday a week later, is going to miss 3 fixtures at Haydock, including this Saturday for the Lancashire Oaks, which I've attended countless times with SD myself. He's going to miss Haydock this afternoon, Haydock on Friday evening, and Haydock on Saturday, all because his missus booked an holiday on the wrong week. So
does make sense now. I did see a picture on his Twitter of St. Ives, and I thought that's very interesting timing to be in the other end of the country. Yeah,
he's fuming. So, but yeah, on the Old Newton Cup, it is the big handicap race of the week. The 17 runners pie man over a mile and a half. Yeah, Mark Prescott's got a 4-year-old that ran once as a 2-year-old, once as a 3-year-old, and has only run once this year on the all-weather as the 4-year-old. Bottom weight of the 17, handicap debut, blah blah blah. You know the story, but yeah, Mark Johnston's trained 3 of the last 8 winners, so that's normally where people start. But yeah, I've had a long week, to be honest. It was too difficult. I might have a look tomorrow night and maybe put something on Twitter, but there won't be any official selection for this video.
Brendan's just asked about Dark Jedi.
In that race? God knows. I'm having to scroll a long way, but it's 18 to 1. Yeah, honestly, pretty consistent until coming unstuck at Windsor. That's his profile. Yeah, I mean, there's one in there that I put up last week. Pablo Escobar.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. And actually runs off a £2 lower mark as a result of that. But yeah, it's really, really competitive. And like you say, he's top weight pie man.
You're doing well.
He's top weight carrying 9 stone 10, and the favourite, as mentioned, is bottom weight carrying 8 stone 10. So it's a stone difference. It's really quite a tricky race to get stuck into.
Yeah, fair play to anyone that is having a go, and best of luck to you. I think that just about does us for this evening, but we are going to wrap up with the official selections. If you do have any naps of the weekend, get them in the chat. I can give them a read before we finish, and we'll keep an eye on them. And as always, if there's any further ground changes or changes in selection, non-runners, etc., you'll find them on our Twitter feed. So, Smido, run us through the selections, please.
Yeah, I love a 3-year-old in an open sprint. So we're on Atalis Bay in the 150, 9 to 1 each way, 3 places. And then we're looking at 2 in the 225. Magical Morning is the main selection, 8 to 1 each way, 5 places. Maydanny would be the secondary selection, half a point each way, 20 to 1, 5 places. They're both with Paddy Power, and I think that both of those prices are wrong and will disappear. Then we're over at Haydock 240 Lune, 11 to 1 each way, just the 3 places for that one. And then back to Sandown, Ready to Venture, 15 to 2 each way, 4 places in the Fillies race. And then the main event, Mishriff, 6 to 4 generally in the Eclipse at 335. I think he's pretty solid. The double will definitely be Magical Morning and Lune. I think both of them are priced.
Juicy double as well.
Yeah, they'll be the double. Now, there is a bit of disparity between, i.e., Lune is standout best price with 365 and Magical Morning is the standout best price 8 to 1 with Paddy Power. So obviously we can't double at those prices, but I'll get the best price via Odds Checker and put it in the description.
Yeah, all the info will be in the description regarding prices and staking and whatever. So if you do want to follow along with Smido, I mean, he had a rare down week last week, but normally bounces back pretty well from those. So I'd be fairly bullish about his chances this weekend. I think bit of research has gone in. He sounds quite confident to me. I'm well trained in picking up his confidence levels, I think. And it could be a good week to follow, I think. But thanks very much for joining us. Anyway, we do have a darts video that's going up later this evening. We've had a first look at the World Match Play, which is probably the second biggest tournament in darts, and that's coming up just in a couple of weeks' time. So we've had a first early look at that with some selections ahead of the market coming out next week that we're keeping an eye on. Please do give that a watch and a thumbs up if you can. Give this one a thumbs up if you can, so a few more people can find it. We'll have some more racing content coming your way, more darts content, maybe some golf content ahead of the Open if I can get a minute to sit down and do some research. But yeah, plenty coming up. So always a pleasure to have you in the chat. If there's anything you do want us to cover coming forward, just let us know. And thanks for joining. We'll see you again very soon.
Paddy had 10 to 1 that Lune, so that's not too bad. I'll get that as the double.